not many cities at all, and most people being an independent family farmer. What would you say the nice part about being an independent family farmer would be? Every job has its good parts and its bad parts. What would you say the good part of being your own farm would be? Good, okay, your own boss, definitely. That's a great part.
You can sustain yourself and your family.
Yeah, okay, right? You grow what you want to eat. It's all your responsibility, but if you want to work, there's no one telling you what to do. So if you want to work harder, you can have more. If you want to work less hard, you have less. No one cares. You build the house the way you want it to be. You basically control your own world. So that was what the majority of people did. So they grew things for their own family consumption. They ate what they wanted, they grew what they wanted, they worked as hard as they wanted, so you're your own boss. But if you wanted more, you had to work harder. If you were content with less, you didn't work as hard. Can you get away with that today if you're working for somebody else? Is anyone going to hire you if you make it pretty clear you're going to come in whenever you feel like it, you're going to leave when you feel like it, and you're going to work as much as you want to work? No one's going to hire you. No chance at all. Okay, but the fun part of being a farmer in that period was the autonomy. Nobody wants to get up early and milk the cows and work in all kinds of different kinds of climate conditions. But the good part was you had control over everything. So if you wanted to get it done earlier and then not do a whole lot the rest of the day, no one cared. It was up to you. Some people want more in life. They want more picturesque landscape. Maybe they want their children to have opportunities that weren't available to them. They want a larger home. They want to dress better. And you can have those things, but you have to work more for it. Some people, more the attitude, I'm not going to kill myself. The best things in life are basically free anyway. So as long as there's something to feed my belly and something over my head so I don't get rained on, I'd rather spend most of my time dreaming and looking at cloud formations and smoking whatever you want in your pipe. And it's not wrong or right. It's up to you. Okay. But that's all going to change. Because, remember, last time we talked about Thomas Malthus's idea that there's going to be this huge population increase occurring. Remember, it tripled in 80 years. Between 1700 and 1780, there's 3 times as many people now. And he was worried, wait a minute, this continues, there's not going to be enough food to sustain everybody, and there's not going to be enough fuel to heat our homes. Fortunately, the Industrial Revolution occurred, so a lot of things that were unthinkable suddenly became possible. All right, so, the good part about being the farmer was the autonomy, the freedom to do what you want. Most people would rather be your own boss than be told what to do. So that was the way things were. But with that huge population increase, now the English aristocrats, who basically controlled the taxation system, they're going to say, wait a minute, we could make a lot of money if somehow we could sell food to these all this growing population. Now, the great part about food is we all have to eat it every day. It's not like clothes where you can decide to just wear the same thing over and over and over again and not care about clothes, or others who do care about it. It's not like anything else. Food everybody needs, but these darn pesky farmers, they are all growing their own food. So what can we do to change that? So what they do is they are going to start raising the taxes on the farms. Now, since the aristocrats, the nobles, are the ones that control the tax structure, they're able to do that. So what's going to happen? Well, the farms that were hardworking, where you have people that want a lot and work hard and are very efficient, they're going to be able to pay it and no problem. What's going to happen with the ones that have the lazy farmers that don't care much? They're not going to be able to afford the taxes, so what's going to happen? They're going to have to sell their farms. Well, who's going to buy them? The aristocrats. Now, the aristocrats are going to put all these farms together and create what are called cash crop or commercial farms. Okay, so cash crop or commercial farms, unlike independent family farms, the independent family farms, you're just growing things for your own family. So you grow as much as you'll need. You may grow some extra to make some money, but primarily it's just to sustain yourself. Cash crop farms or commercial farms, they become focusing on one particular farm good for the marketplace. So you become a rutabaga farmer or a cabbage farmer or a carrot farmer, and that's all you grow. Now what these aristocrats are going to do is they buy these farms from the farmers who can't pay their taxes. They get it at a good price, and they put all these farms together and make these huge cash crop farms, which they now own. But who's going to be farming them? Do you think that's they're doing this because they feel, wait a minute, the farm life's a good life, it's great to wake up at 5 in the morning and milk the cow, that's what they want for their own kids? Don't think so. So who are they going to hire to run these cash crop farms? Right, so the peasants who are the farmers, the people that used to own the farms, now they're going to become farm workers, because what else do they know how to do? But think for yourself. Are you going to care more if you own the business, the farm, or if you're working for, quote, the man, for somebody else?
If you own it.
If you own it, you care if you're going to gain something from it. If somebody else owns it, all you're going to do is make sure they make enough so that they can pay you. Anything beyond that, why kill yourself? Look at the difference between if you're working in one of these little, Korean groceries. So if you own it, notice they work really hard, the families who own these little dollar stores or these little groceries. Now, are they closing it from 12 to 1 to go out for lunch at McDonald's and pay, $12 to get a Big Mac combo meal? No, they're not going to close it. They're going to sit there, just going to grab a can of corn right off of the shelf and going to be working the whole time. Now, are you going to be willing to do that if you're working for somebody else? Or do you care that much that they're going to make money from your labor? No, so you're going to do the least amount possible without getting fired. And remember, these were already the lazy farmers, the ones that weren't particularly ambitious, otherwise they would have been able to pay their taxes. So many people are not going to want to be farmers anymore, because what was the only good part about being a farmer? Autonomy, that you have control of your destiny. Now you're just a farm worker, you're not going to want to be that. So what are you going to become? You're going to now become a factory worker. So the factories start opening up because the industries start. And you're not going to need as many people to work the farms because they're going to have inventions that replace the people. So fewer and fewer people become farmers. And particularly as it becomes less desirable a job. Okay, so that's the agricultural part. That's the agricultural revolution, the change in the ownership of the farms from individual family-owned farms to commercial cash crop farms, and the replacement of farm laborers, and farmers with agricultural technological devices. Okay, but that's only part of it. Now, the second sub-revolution that makes up the Industrial Revolution is what's called the technological revolution. And the technological revolution, as suggested in the name, talks about the changes in technology, which makes the whole thing possible. So let's talk about some of the changes in technology and some of the inventions. All right, so there's lots of different inventions. I'm going to talk about the two most important ones, and they're inventors. All right, the first one I want to talk about is number 13. His name is going to be James Watts. James Watts is known for making the first steam engine. So he creates the first combustible steam engine. That comes from Watts. So he's a Scottish inventor. And basically the way that it's going to be basically powering all of the machine, all the way from the ones in the factories to the really large locomotives. So they're all based on the same thing, the combustible steam engine. The way the combustible steam engine works is you heat up coke. Coke is a byproduct of coal, so it comes from coal. You heat up coke, makes an explosion, then the steam powers the engine, and basically that is going to be what is the basis of all the different engines of the time. So it comes up with the idea of steam-powered energy and the combustible steam engine. Both of those come from James Watts. Okay, so that's a very important invention. Now, another important invention is going to be the invention by Sir Edmund Cartwright. Does everyone see that here, or is it kind of blocked? Blocked? Okay. Let me put. Okay, so Watts, James Watts. He comes up with the combustible steam engine. The other one is Sir Edmund Cartwright. And what Cartwright's going to come up with is the idea of the power loom. All right, what is a loom? What's it used for?
Make clothes.
Right, make clothes, good. So you make cotton or silk or linen or wool into cloth. Now, traditionally you did it by hand, and then they had pedal looms. You know, you would, your leg muscles are stronger than your arm muscles, so they could be bigger and make more cloth. But this is going to be replaced by what's called the power loom. So the power loom is going to use that steam energy again, and the power loom, suddenly you can make hundreds of yards of cloth in what used to take weeks. Now you can do it in 5 minutes because the machine's doing it. So that's going to be the invention of Sir Edmund Cartwright. Now look here. He has this title of Sir. What does that mean?
He's smart.
No, I mean, he is, but
He's been knighted.
he's knighted, okay. So, two ways to get knighted. You either inherit your title back from the Middle Ages, count blah, 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 blah for hundreds of years, or you make a very important invention. So, like, who are some people we know knighted in the last 25, 30 years?
Paul McCartney.
Right, Sir Paul McCartney, Sir Elton John, Sir Ian McClellan. So they're ones who have made important contributions within their field. So you get this very lofty title of Sir. All right, so his invention was the power loom. Well, why is that so important? It makes England a ton of money because nobody can compete with them. You can make it much quicker on the power loom than you can by hand. So anyone that makes it by hand, they're going to basically be thrown out of business. But there's a downside to that as well. There's going to be several downsides of it. But one of the downsides of it, all right, think of the difference between a handmade suit versus a machine-made. Now, most of us are buying machine-made clothes because they're cheaper, a lot cheaper. So let's say a regular suit you buy in a store, $500. If you get one handcrafted, they're going to take several measurements for you. They're going to do it over different periods of time. You have a choice of the fabric you want. Do you want bone buttons or horn buttons, or plastic if you want to be environmentally conscious? But it's all up to you. What color lining do you want? Do you want the lining to be polyester or silk? Do you want it to be double-breasted or single-breasted? What if you'd like a second pair of pants with it? So, pants wear out a lot faster than suit jackets. So, you're spending a lot of money. You want it to last longer. You can have all those specifications because it's handmade just for you. But why isn't everybody buying handmade suits? Because they're going to start at about $2,500 and go on up, depending on the quality of usually the wool. So most of us are going to, buy ones that don't fit as well and then have it try to fit as close as we can. Okay, so the quality goes down, but the price goes way down as well. So more people are choosing that. And so England, nobody's able to keep up with them. They're the only ones that have all these machines. So they're making the country a ton of money, and that's why he gets that title of Sir Edmund Cartwright. Okay, so these are some examples of the technological revolution, the technology which made the whole thing possible. Okay, but then there's also the third part. The third part, the other sub-revolution, is what's called the commercial revolution, number 3 here. Now, the commercial revolution, as suggested in the name, it's based on the idea of commerce. What's commerce? Yeah. Good. Buying and selling of goods. Okay. Well, let's look how that changes. Now, in pre-industrial society, so before the Industrial Revolution, where most of England was rural, one of the nice things about living in a rural area is rural areas are based on the idea of a rural community. All right, what do we mean by that term, community? How would you define a community? You remember from the anthropology course, Tyler?
A group of cultures.
Okay, a group of cultures where they're close to each other, they know one another, they care about each other. They have a lot of things in common. So the people, often the same religion, same race, same ethnicity, they're from the same area for hundreds of years. It's a close-knit group of people where even if they don't like each other, they know each other and share a lot of things in common. They frequently go to the same religious institution. Now, do we have the same thing in a city? No. So, would Del Valle be a community or not? Yeah, I mean, it's a small enough group, you basically recognize most people who are here. People that aren't from this group are gonna stand out here, if nothing other than by what they're interested in, their choice of majors. You know, this is a very unique place. Now, how about Temple main campus with, I don't know, 30,000 people? No, there are people who come in, some people are just Tuesday, Thursday, some are from this area, some live on campus, some don't. You know, here, most people live here, you see each other in the dining halls, you probably know, if you don't know each other's name, you'll know somebody that knows somebody, you'll probably know, you know, basic things about each other, particularly as you've been here a while. So same thing in the rural society. So in rural, here's how commerce took place in a rural society. So pre-industrial society. What you saw was there was a direct relationship between the buyer and seller of goods. They knew each other. So let's see why that's so important. All right, so let's say you're a farm wife and you want to make a little extra money legally. So what could you do? Well, let's say you're really good at knitting. So they don't go to a store to buy a sweater, they'll go to their neighbor who's really good at knitting. So we'll call her Mrs. Jones. And remember, you go to the same church as Mrs. Jones, you all know each other's whole family for generations. She lives 2 farms over, so you know each other. Okay, now you go to her, is she gonna immediately just go, all right, this is how much it costs, give me the money? No. Is she going to even worry whether you'll pay her or not? No. She knows your character. And think how much disgrace there would be if you didn't pay her. She would tell every neighbor, you all know all the same neighbors. She might mention to the pastor at the church. He would give a sermon. Jesus always paid his debts. And if it's good enough for Jesus, it's good enough for you. Okay, so there'd be a lot of pressure on you to pay. So if you didn't have it immediately, you pay it when you can. She's not worried at all about it. And is she going to immediately get, she knows you well, she can immediately start, all right, what kind of sweater do you want? No, it's friendly. She'll ask you for, you want to have some coffee, and here's my new recipe for the coffee cake, and didn't the pastor give a moving service last week? And look at this person's, look at that weird hat she wore, and a little gossip. So it's a nice, friendly, relaxed relationship. Okay, now what's the main reason she's doing it? To make money, right? But at the same time, when she makes it for you, she's going to feel good because she made the whole product herself for you. She made the whole thing. She'll see you wear it. Everyone will know it's one of her sweaters because they're known for being loose on the top and tight on the bottom. So she feels good. She did a good job. You care how you look. She feels good when she sees you wear something that she made. So has anyone here ever made somebody a holiday gift rather than bought it? Okay, what did you make?
Painted pet portraits.
Oh, okay, oh, that's nice. What did you make?
I made a stuffed animal.
Oh, wow, nice. So you become known for that. Like let's say you're known for making a fruit cake, but actually the kind that anyone likes because it has a whole fifth of rum in it. So you become known for the tipsy fruit cake, and everybody looks forward to that every year. Okay, but then this one has a drinking problem, so then you make that with fake rum. So I mean, you can do that individual. All right, so that's this close, friendly relationship between the buyer and seller of goods. Everyone's happy. Okay, now, is that how we buy goods today? Does anyone go to their neighbor and commission anything from them?
I get eggs from my stepmom.
Okay, well, okay. But most people, what are we going to do? Let's say we want a sweater. We go to the store. So we go to Macy's because they bought up everybody else and ruined all the other good departments. No, we don't want to say that. All right, so we go to, let's say Banana Republic. All right, so let's see how that's set up. All right, so in the Banana Republic, there's a bot there. All right, we have it right here. All right, we have the buyer, the middleman, and the seller. Because Banana Republic, do they have people there making it in the back for you as you wait? No, they get it from China. All right, so now is China, is it one person in China making it there for you? No, it's going to be on an assembly line. So the most you'll know about the person who made the sweater for you is their stitch number 3357. So that would be the seller because they're the ones selling the good. Banana Republic would be the middleman. And you would be the buyer. Let's look at how close the relationship is now. Now we saw it was close before in a pre-industrial society. Let's see what it's like now. All right, so you're the buyer, but do you know the seller at all? Will you ever see the seller? No, because there's a million people making it in the factory in China, so the closest you're going to get is that's inspected by 55894. Does that give you that warm, fuzzy feeling that it's 55894 instead of 173115? No. All right. Well, how about the seller? Does the seller care at all about you as the buyer? Not at all. All right. Let's see the middleman. Maybe Banana Republic just cares so much. Now, how loyal is the Banana Republic going to be to the seller? Do they care if it's made in either China or Pakistan? No, all they care is whichever is the best quality for the lowest price. So if Pakistan starts making it for less than China for the same quality, bye-bye China, hello Pakistan. They don't care. Now, how much does Banana Republic really care about you? Not at all. All they care about, does your credit card go through? They get a 6-digit approval code, which means they're going to get paid. Do they care what you do with it? They don't care if you send it back to China. They don't care if you leave it in a drawer and never see it again. They don't care if you use it to line the cat's litter box. They don't care if you give it to a homeless person because you feel they need it more than you. What's the only thing they care about? That you don't return it, because then the money gets taken from them. All right, so the seller doesn't care about you. Do they care about whether Banana Republic's buying it or Macy's? No, whoever pays them the most, that's all they care about. Now, how about you? Do you really care if it's made in Pakistan or China? You just want the best quality at the lowest price, right? You don't have any loyalty to them. They don't have any loyalty to you. It doesn't matter. All right, now how much do you even care about the place you buy it? Let's say they send you the 15% off coupon every month, every week of the year, but one time they forgot to send it, you're probably going to get so upset that you go right across the street to their competitor because they sent you the 15% off. So you don't care about them, they don't care about you, none of anyone cares about anyone. So that closeness that we had before, that's all gone with the industrial society. Karl Marx has a lot to say about that. Marx says people become alienated. There's a constant state of, number 4 here, alienation between the buyer and seller of goods. Alienation means there's no sense of pride, meaning, accomplishment, or caring about the quality. So how many people care about their jobs today? Almost nobody. They don't care about doing it well. They don't care about if it's anything important. They don't care if they're getting better at it. All they care is, how much am I getting paid? Yeah.
I think there's even been like a little bit of a shift, because I know especially people around like my age, they like to go online shopping, like specifically like Shein. I know that's really, really cheap, but they're also sacrificing like quality, of course. But at this point, no one really cares too much.
No.
So I think there's even been a shift in that.
Yeah, no, I 100%. I think even more now with online shopping, because you don't even see the people. It's, I have to admit, I never bothered with Amazon. I tried to fight against it for many years, and then they gave me a month free, and I'm like, actually, this is pretty nice. You want something, you get it the next day. You don't have to run out. And it's, before I used to love going to the stores and chatting with the people, seeing the displays, maybe having lunch while I'm there. Now it's no fun at all. They're rude. You wait in line. The displays are non-existent or dirty. They don't even care if they have the right size for you. So I'm like, they don't care, so I don't either. I'm going to just get it from Amazon and get it. It's easier. Yeah. So no, it's definitely a seismic change. So that's what Marx is talking about. There's alienation between the buyer and seller of goods. They don't care about each other at all. And basically, money becomes the nexus behind everything. It's our only motivational factor. Now, did Mrs. Jones want money for her work? Sure. But that wasn't the only thing. She also felt pride, meaning, and accomplishment in her producing the good. Why do we not feel that today? What's the difference?
Nobody cares,
Right, but why?
because it's not personal.
Okay, it's right. Okay, good. It's not personal. You don't know them, they don't know you, neither of you care about each other, so it doesn't mean anything. So that,
Wouldn't it also be if it's made in a factory, it's the same thing over and over and over
Yeah,
again. There's
that-
no unique quality.
right, that's it. You're just a part of the process. You're not doing the whole thing yourself, 100%. And that's what you still see in, like, okay, let's say now, I'm not sure the Renaissance Fair is up and running yet, but if not, it'll be soon. And you see a lot of people there. They really get behind the things that they make. They're making them mostly by hand, and they care about it. There's a lot of it, they're doing it for fun. They really enjoy it. They're hoping to make some money too, but they feel a sense of craftsmanship, and that's it. You get a lot of, you get like a small group of people that still feel that sense of craft, because they're each making the whole thing themselves. So they're trying to do the best job they can. People in a factory, you're just a number on a factory, so you don't matter. Anyone can be Stitch 4472. What's the difference? Yeah, very good. Okay, so that's kind of what we're seeing happening with the Industrial Revolution. Now, as people are forced to do some kind of labor, you know, they can't be farmers anymore. We just talked about why farming becomes a lousy job, where it used to be a good job, reasonably good job. Let's talk about number 5 here, the working conditions in the factories. This may get us to appreciate our own jobs, no matter how lousy they may be. So let's talk about it. All right. Well, your average first of all, with the working conditions in the factories, you're being forced to move from the rural area where you knew all your neighbors and have lived for generations and knew their extended families, to moving into the cities. And as we see in the cities, nobody cares about you. There's this constant estrangement. Like, how many people even know their neighbors today if you live in a city? You barely want to know the neighbors because the neighbors are just going to bother you. Why are you taking my parking space? And are you going to mow your lawn now? And don't mow it now. That's when they're sleeping. And you know, they're more trouble than they're worth. So you try to avoid your neighbors. But this closeness completely gone. So in the working, so they're moving away from the rural areas to the new urban centers. The two major urban centers. One is going to be Manchester. And the other one, Liverpool. So that's going to be where the factories are built. They're in northern England because the climate is less desirable, so it's cheaper to buy land up there. Same thing in Scotland. That's where a lot of industry starts moving because the land's cheap. Nobody wants to be in that kind of climate where it's not only raining all the time, but cold and raining, and away from everything. So what do? They start building factories. All right, so in the factories, you're on average going to be working about 14 hours a day, 6 days a week. You also live in the factories. You're not just working there. There's a difference between your private space and your public space, but you're working where you live. So you're in one big dormitory, about 60 beds in a dorm. You just share one big room. You don't have assigned beds. You just grab any bed available. Just like you would on the train, grabbing a seat, or on the bus. So the people that work during the day, they sleep there at night. The ones that work at night, they sleep there during the day. They only change the sheets about once every 30 days. There's also one bathroom for about 212 people. You're doing the same monotonous job day in, day out till the time you're ready to die. So you're stitch number 4459 forever. Another thing they do, they turn up the speed of the assembly line, so you're moving faster, a little faster every day, but of course they're not going to raise your wages. You're just doing more. You're also seen as belonging to your employer while you're at work. They can do whatever they want to you. If you were not working fast enough, they would sometimes tie your hands over your head and beat you. You belong to your employer while you're at work. You don't like it, get another job. Sometimes they would throw freezing water on you to wake you up if you're not moving fast enough. You only had one bathroom break the whole time. And they would also lock the doors so you couldn't leave and grab a smoke. There was also major sanitation problems. For example, at the time, they're using very harsh industrial dyes. So the residue from it looked like fountain pen ink. Now, what would they do with the residue from the dyes? They would just dump it in the river. The main river in Manchester is called the Irwell River. Where did all that sewage from the 212 people per toilet go? In the Irwell. That's where the residue from the dyeing of all that fabric goes as well. And where do you think their untreated drinking water is coming from? The city was so dirty you could see it from 30 miles away, all the smog coming from the Manchester factories. There's even a famous illustration that shows this. It's created by a Frenchman called, his name is Gustave Doré, and it's called Manchester at Noon. Manchester at Noon shows what Manchester at noon is so dark, it looks like midnight. All you see is billowing smoke coming out of the smokestacks. And none of these cities are designed with parks or street names. They just grow organically. They're not planned at all. And each employer tried to pay less than any of the other employers. That way they could keep more profit. So they're each undercutting each other so they can make their products for less money. There's no minimum wages. They can do whatever they want. The government doesn't get involved because the society at this time believes in laissez-faire. That idea, remember, from Adam Smith that we talked about. This leave it alone economic philosophy. It's seen as your problem. You can't, you don't like your working conditions, get another job. If you can't, you're stuck. It's a pretty miserable place to work and to live. They also preferred hiring women and children over men. There's a few reasons for this. They take a smaller amount of space, you can cram more of them into a smaller amount of space, and they're more agile, so they can, get down into lower levels, and if something drops, they can get it more easily. Another advantage of women and children is they're more submissive. You can scream at them more and get more work out of them. Harder to, terrify a man. Yet, any pay that the woman or child would get would automatically go to the man of the household. This is seen as his family, so it will go to him. Then he decides how much his wife or his children would get. Now, our government certainly wouldn't put up with anything like this. We have all these laws protecting people. This one did because they believe in laissez-faire or economic liberalism. Remember, I said England's making a ton of money, but that doesn't mean that the average person's living well. Just like in our society, just because we have a few multi-billionaires at the top doesn't mean your average person is having a decent standard of living. Now, another thing that you began to see with the work, now part of the reason why they don't try to improve things is the factory owners are going to make this argument they're going to say it's a good thing to keep people impoverished. And here's why. But one reason, you keep the price of goods down, that way you can sell more of them, so the government's able to make more money. Another reason, what might these people start doing if they get a little extra money?
They'll think, hey, I have a little bit more extra money, so I don't have to stress now. I can actually realize how miserable I am.
Okay, well, that's a good thought. It might get them thinking about the misery of their life. And then if they're thinking about it, they may start rebelling, so we certainly don't want that. Good. What else? Well, what do people do today to relieve stress? If you've had a horrible week and you just want to escape it, and you can't afford to fly to Fiji. Go, 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 go. Yeah. No. You're going to start drinking. So the men will start drinking and they'll start going to the houses of prostitution. So, temporary escape from the misery of their lives. So how do you keep people moral? By making them so impoverished they can't afford anything. So then they're doing what the society wants you to do, which is just work all the time and spend the rest of your time praying, thanking God for giving you such a wonderful life. So that's all they want people to do, just work and pray. If you give them no money, there's not much else they can do. But, in an interesting turn of fate, the price of gin goes way, way down. It becomes actually cheaper than beer. And gin's about 8 to 9 times as strong as beer. They even have this gin called Tomcat gin. They used to have a machine, it looked like a cat, like a really big cat, and it had a spout on where the paws were. You would put some kind of coin in the cat's mouth, and then you would get a shot of gin. So people were, grabbing them on their lunch break and on the way to work and the way home, and that's just the gin mills became, they wanted people to be able to, escape some of this misery for a little amount of time. So these are some of the conditions we see. Now there's also going to be, believe it or not, there's going to be some people that reject this system. I know, hard to believe. So wonderful, how could anyone reject it, right? One group of people against the whole laissez-faire system and the whole factory system were the, number 6 here, the Luddites. All right, Luddites were artisans. They were people who made things by hand, very, skilled artisans. And they were angry because their whole things of making everything by hand was basically being put out of business by the factory. So what they did is they start destroying the factories. They become saboteurs. They destroy the factories. They even burn down some of the factories. Now, what that term means is people against progress. So they were against progress. They wanted to go back to the old way where everyone made everything by hand. Now, do you think the workers saw them as heroes or not? Why or why not?
They probably have work because they just burned down like the horrible conditions, but they probably were a little like upset because now they don't have that income coming in.
Okay. You're
I was
just-
gonna say about they just lost their income.
Yeah, no, they're very upset. It would be like if somebody said, "Oh my God, I hate the way the school exploits people. They have you, stuck with these work-study jobs where you have to swipe somebody's card there in the dining hall, or you have to restack books. What a waste of people's time. They ought to just like burn down the library and get rid of the dining hall." Well, then you don't have any money. So that's the way the people felt. It just they didn't love their job, but it's better than not having any money at all. And they saw them as against progress. It would be like the way some people might see the Amish today. What on earth why would you want to use a horse and buggy and kerosene lamps at a time when you can buy a Porsche Carrera and go 100 miles an hour in 3.5 seconds? So they were seen as against progress. It would be like if we suddenly got rid of word processing or computers and said, "Hey, go back to typing or writing by hand." Are you going to be able to compete with the rest of the world if we start doing that? No. I mean, everybody else is doing it. You're whether you want to do it or not, you kind of have to. So that's what we begin to see. So the Luddites against all kinds of progress. Now, another thing you began to see was the establishment of number 7 here, what are called workhouses. All right, now the workhouses, they were government-owned factories and dormitories. So they would hire anybody. If you couldn't get a job in a regular factory, you wouldn't starve. You wouldn't be like in our society where you just have the homeless like lying there in the middle of the streets for hours on end. But you would have somewhere for people to live, but also the conditions are going to be even worse than in the regular factories. Here's why. Do they want people to be there in the workhouses, or do they want people to be competing for jobs? They want them competing for jobs. But here's the thing. This whole system is called, number 10 here, capitalism. Remember we talked about Marx? He's always talking about capitalism. The capitalist is the one who owns the factories, the proletariat are the factory workers. They're in opposition to each other. Now, the capitalist, part of capitalism is it's cyclical. It goes through cycles. Certain times things are going well and people can make a lot of money. Other times things are going lousy and they're not paid very well. Part of that is based on competition. The capitalist wants to hire the best workers they can for the lowest price. Now, we all know there's some people that are just not good workers. They may try real hard, but they just can't accomplish anything. They're lazy. They're difficult personalities. Nobody wants to be around them. They might not be the brightest bulb on the Christmas tree. Or they may not be the nicest person in the world because they point out they're people who are not the brightest bulbs on the Christmas tree. Or what if you're handicapped? What if you're missing an arm, or you're missing a leg, or you're missing an arm and a leg? Are you going to be able to compete on the open marketplace with somebody that has all their limbs? No, but you still need a job as much as anybody else does. So what's going to happen to you? Well, you can always be there in the workhouses. So the workhouses, government-run factories and dormitories, so nobody starves, everybody has a job. but the conditions are even worse in the workhouses than they are in the regular factories. The people in the workhouses would dream of getting a factory job, even after all that description I gave you about it. That would be seem almost like to them heaven on earth. So you can imagine how bad the workhouses were. Now, we do see some workhouses mentioned in English literature. Is anyone familiar with Charles Dickens' Oliver Twist? Okay, so Mr. Bumble, who runs one of the workhouses, Mr. Bumble, he has this sweet little orphan boy named Oliver, and Oliver very gently asks him one day, "Please, sir, may I have some more?" And what answer does he get from Bumble? "More!" And then Bumble grabs him and throws him down the steps at the rats, or throws him down the steps and throws rats at him. I would assume the first. Now, why is he being so mean to poor sweet little Oliver? Well, because Oliver's asking for more food, and even giving this watery oatmeal, it cost him something. He's given a certain amount to run that workhouse, so whatever he can cut costs on, he gets to keep for himself. If Oliver starts asking for more food, some of the other orphans might start asking for more food, and they're picking Bumble's pocket, so he wants to cut that immediately. So anyway, these are what we begin to see the start of the workhouses. Okay, we'll let it go with that for today. So remember, none of this stuff from today will be on the quiz. The quiz will be right at the beginning of class, so please make sure and get here.